Hey guys, welcome back to CheatSheetPros.com. Today is the last day of March 31st, 2022. We've been away for a while. We're kind of in that phase of NBA where the regular season's winding down. A lot of studs are resting or ruled out last minute. So I've been going really light, not doing a lot. And most of the price pick stuff, I've been posting in screenshots of the picks and stuff I like. Night before last, we had a really good night. I posted 3 in the chat group and all 3 of them hit. So we had a 10Xer, and then the other 2, I think I did a 3-team and or 3-leg and a 2-leg, and they all hit, so that was good. But I had some free time this morning, so I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the NBA slate tonight and pick out some price pick plays that we have. So let's go ahead and get started. So as always, first thing I do is I pull up the NBA cheat sheet, and I go over to this last 7 tab. And then what we're looking at is the last 7 average versus the projection. So most fantasy sites like Price Picks, the current, just drank a smoothie. So the current projection is usually what they set their line at, plus or minus a half or 1 or whatnot, depending upon how much money comes in. And so on our sheet here, we have the last 7 versus the projection. So we're going to sort this by difference. And then also, over the last 10 games, we got the opponent team ranks for this particular stat here. So just looking down at some of these, Paul George is someone that I'm interested in. Let me slide this over. So that's going to eat up part of my screen. Let me make sure I can get all the guys on here. So Paul George is someone that I'm interested in, but they only have his fantasy score up right now. I'm waiting on the rest of the props to come up. They're usually up after lunchtime. And then going down the list here, Gallinari is not up, Bogdanovich isn't up, but Kevin is. And so when we take a look at his points and we pull him up, his last 3 games, he has 20, 22, and 20. So we just need him to get over 13.5 tonight. So he's someone that's on my radar. Malik Monk is another one that jumps out at the top of the sheet, pulling him up. His prop seems kind of high at 17.5, but the last 3 games, he's 23 or more, 28, 23, and 23. So he's getting some more playing time. We like that. And then I just kind of go down the list and look at some of these other players. Drummond's someone else that also made the list that I wanted to take a look at tonight. We had him the other night, and he cruised over. So 11.5 points, he's getting up. He was 9.5 for a while, then 10.5, so now he's 11.5. But you can see each of the last 5 games, he has 13-plus points. So we like that. I even like doing a first half card on him as well. And then you can kind of go down the list and look at some of these other guys. And then we do the same thing for rebounds and sorting the difference and then looking at, the gaps and stuff. But I'm going to flip over here to the DVP side, and let's just go ahead and take a look at some of the players. So Drummond, Herter are 2 that we talked about for points. Bruce Brown is showing up in a lot of places. So his number's only 9.5, and you can see he's skidded by that a couple of times, but he's been over that quite a bit. So Drummond or Brown, I think one of those guys is going to go over, if not both. It's always tough to tell when you have the Brooklyn studs in there if they're going to take over the game, but someone else has to put up a double-digit point game. And then going down here, when I'm looking at this DVP tab, this is one thing that a lot of people ask me questions on. And so I typically, when I sort the sheet, I rule out, the teams with no games. So you can click this little caret and clear all, and then it will bring you everybody. So you can sort it here and say, okay, these are the total fantasy points allowed. This is for each position. And then this is just a ranking. And I pull the last 2 weeks. So we're really looking at a glimpse of the last 2 weeks and not the whole season, because the whole season things kind of mesh together. But when I send this sheet out in the mornings, I unclick the no game, and then I usually sort it by fantasy points. So these are the players playing today. So here you could say, okay, Detroit's in a tough spot against Philadelphia. Clippers are in a tough spot against Chicago. And then the people in good spots, we have Chicago's in a really good spot. Brooklyn's in a good spot. Milwaukee's in a good spot. Utah's in a good spot. And then you can kind of break down the players you want to look at. Now, just looking at the real generic team totals, one thing that jumped out at me is I want to see who's giving up the most points. So we look over here. So the Lakers are giving up the 29th most points per game, 122.6 over the last 2 weeks. So who's the number 1 guy that comes up? Donovan Mitchell jumps in my mind. I'm not sure about you guys. And then he's a point guard. So looking over here at the point guards, you can see they're giving up 25 points, 6 rebounds, almost 10 assists, 41.2 PRA number, and they're 26th against point guards. So Donovan Mitchell's in a really good spot tonight, so he's someone that pops out. So we pull up Donovan Mitchell, and we're going to take a look at his stats here. So he's been over 25.5 in 4 of the last 5 games. He's coming off of a 33-point game against the Clippers. He had 26 against Charlotte, 37 against Boston, and 30 against Brooklyn. So he's in a good DVP spot tonight, so he's someone that jumps out for me. And typically when I pull these players up, I'm going to flip through, kind of look at their other stats here, like blocks and steals, 1.5. You know, that really doesn't do anything for me. He's got 1, 1, 1, 2, 0. So that's in favor of Price Picks there. They're not really getting an edge on that line. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for like the DVP stuff. When we come over here and we look at assist, another guy that popped out looking at the last 7 tab was Holiday. And we had Holiday on points the other day, and he went over, but now you can see he's up to 19.5. So now it's getting a little bit tricky where he's been under that a couple times, over it a couple times. So he's kind of all over the place. So the points didn't really jump out at me. Rebounds, nothing real consistent there. He's kind of all over the place, but his assist, he did jump out. So his assist, he's averaging 7.4 over the last 5 games, and that includes only having 3 against Sacramento. So he had 7, 7, and then the last 2 games, he's had 10 and 10. So Holiday over 6.5 assists is one that did jump out. And I went back and looked at his game logs. Over the last 10, he's been over that number in 8 of 10 games. So he's on an 8-2 overrun, hitting it 80% of the time. So another one that I want to take a look at was Kevin Durant. So looking at the cheat sheet, Kevin Durant popped up on assists, and when I went back and looked at his game logs, he had a 80% over rate over the last 10 games, so he's been over 8 of the last 10 on 5.5 assists. So I prefer Holiday than Durant, but Durant's someone that you can always take a look at. I mean, he's got 7, 8, 8 in 3 of the last ones, but he has missed 2 of the last 3 by a hook. So I would knock him down to kind of a tier 2 play, but that is someone that you can take a look at. Looking at points, rebounds, and assists, Donovan Mitchell, we're going to go back to him real quick, 36.5. He's in a good DVP spot. I think that's someone that you can take a look at. And he's been over this number quite a bit. And it's actually bumped a point since I wrote it down. And then another one was Bruce Brown. Let me see if they have his. His points, rebounds, assist. That's kind of a tier 2 play for me. He's squeaked over it quite a bit. And over the last 10 games, he's hit it 80% at an 80% clip going over. So he's someone you can consider. But he doesn't have a lot of wiggle room over the top. Batum's another one, and they don't have his points, rebounds, and assists up yet. Looking at his points, 6.5, and then he's got 8, 9, 9. Pretty close, not a high volume player, tough matchup against Chicago, so that doesn't really jump out at me. Blocks and steals, I want to see, there's 3 guys that came up on my looking at. One was Kyrie, and they can see they don't have one up for him yet. He's got a 90% over clip in the last 10 games. Seth Curry was the other one, so they don't have one up for him. He was at 80% over the last 10 games. And Sadiq Bey, they should have one for him. Really? They have everything else. Points, rebounds, assists, fantasy score, 3-point made, and free throws, but no blocks and steals. So if they do post it, he's got an 80% over clip on his blocks and steals. Those were the 3 that I liked. And then my always favorite free throw props that we're going to get in and play with. One I really like is James Harden. So his free throws made is over 8. So you can see he's been over that in 3 of the last 4 games with a push. So he's got 10, 8, 11, and 9. So when I come over here and I'm looking at the cheat sheet, one of the things I do, and I added this and no one noticed it, so I was kind of curious. But that's been a couple of weeks now. And I'll sort this by ranking from high to low so I can see. And what this is over the last 2 full weeks, which teams are giving up the most free throw attempts. So you could look at fouls. Free throw shots made doesn't really matter because it depends on who's shooting, but whatever team is sending the other team to the free throw line the most, that's someone that I'm interested in, especially if they're hitting at a clip over 50, 60, 70%. So here we can look at this and say, okay, Detroit, so we're looking at the team here. So Detroit's given up 28.1 free throw attempts, which is 29th in the NBA, so they're the second most, so that's a good spot for Philadelphia. The Lakers are giving up the 27th most, Chicago the 24th most. So we want to look at players for Philly, Utah, and the Clippers. So looking at Philly, Embiid was the first guy that I looked at. So let me show you what I'm seeing with him. So looking at Embiid, his free throw attempts here, 8.5. He really hasn't been over that number. He has 4 straight unders, averaging 7.2. So I looked at that and said, hey, 8.5 might be a little light. Good spot, but I'm going to stay away from it. So the other stud on the team was Harden. So when I went and looked at him, I saw, okay, well, he's averaging 9 per game, and his line's 8, which I feel like Price Picks should have made this 8.5. That would have been a really good line for them. But at 8, I don't mind it because it gives us a push at 8. So really 7 or less is the only thing that kills us. And he's got 10, 8, 11, and 9 over the last 4 games. And he's in the best, you can't really say DVP matchup, but I guess best free throw spot because he shoots a lot and then Detroit fouls the hell out of people. So that's someone that we want to take a look at. The other one that came out in my research was Donovan Mitchell. So when we have Donovan Mitchell, so his free throw attempts was 4.5. And then we can see he's got the second best spot as the Lakers are 27th in sending the opponent to the free throw line. So I like him to go over 4.5 free throws. What I like about this, Dallas and Charlotte, he only had 3 and 2, and that's fine. But these other games, I mean, he's doubling the number. He had 9 against the Clippers, 8 against Boston, 7 against Brooklyn. So he's got the ability to get way over this number and get this leg down early. So some of the favorite plays I've got that I want to go over today. So Harden free throw attempts over 8. That's one I'm going to go with. Jrue Holiday over on his assist is going to be the second one. And then I'm going to take Kevin Huerter over 13.5 points. I'm going to do Donovan Mitchell points or free throw attempts. I'm leaning points over 25.5 right now for my 4th leg. And then my 5th leg, I'm probably going to go with the Drummond points over, since he's been over that in 8 of the last 10 games. So those are the 5 I'm going to start off, and I'll post a screenshot of it as well. But I just kind of wanted to show you guys some of the things that I was looking at, how I use the sheet. When I start looking at player props, I look at everything. I go look at projections. I see who's projected for the most points that day, the most rebounds, the most assists. I look at the last 7 average versus the current projection. I look at the differences there. I also look at the DVP tab and say, okay, what positions have the most favorable matchup? And these free throw ones are fun. They're meaningless, but I love looking and seeing, oh, hey, Donovan Mitchell made 9 free throws. He locked that leg up. Now let's move on to the next one. There's a couple other that did pop out to me, but they were on Brooklyn and Atlanta, and you can see they give up the least and second least amount of free throw attempts to the opponent, so I kind of kicked them out. But that's what I got for today, guys. MLB starts April 7th. I am extremely excited. I posted a video in the Facebook group if you want to play a season-long baseball auction league with me on Yahoo Saturday night. I posted a quick video of how to join if you want to. There's 10 spots open right now. It's on Yahoo. And then it'll take me, I should have a sheet up. I'm hoping the season starts Thursday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to work on getting it fine-tuned. It looks like most of the data pools are going to be the same as last year, so I should be able to get it up pretty quick. But give me Saturday and Sunday to really work on it, and we'll get that sheet up and we'll get rocking and rolling for the 2022 MLB season. Good luck, guys.